Lighthouse 1111 Spirituality. Welcome. I'd like to welcome you today for a little insight chat about Africa and ways in which the diaspora and the African community globally can work to achieve the better outcome than what they are being served or what we are being served. Um, how we're being treated and our worth and work that we put in, and just my own observations of things. First thing, I think it's a good thing that I see that a lot of the French speaking countries that use the CFF, I think it's called the African franc, if you like, that they seem to be moving away from that and joining together to make a currency. I think that's a very good idea, and I think they've got a model already which they can see and work with and make it their own in a sense. It's just something that got my mind thinking today. I saw something on one of the channels on YouTube, can't remember the actual name right now, and they was talking about the Russian Federation that was gonna allow all Africans to go over to Russia basically, and they wouldn't need a visa to enter into their territory, which I thought was one a nice thing. But then I was wondering, why don't we do this ourselves? And why don't we have a united African state that conjoins all of the African countries together? That's the north, the south, the east, the central, and the west. To use no borders and to have a system in place where it could be modelled pretty much like the European Union. Some parts of Africa I know isn't safe, i.e. There's a lot that's going on there, in terms of war and, just local politics that obviously, makes it a little bit difficult. There's also the same kind of barriers that we have in the European Union, where there's language barriers, and I feel like these sort of things they should be working on Africa as a continent, and opening up its borders to all citizens of Africa. So it doesn't matter if you're from Zimbabwe or I don't know, Kenya or Tunisia. You should be able to move from one territory to the other territory. Another thing that I kind of observed that I feel like Africa doesn't have is its own industries. I feel there's a right and a wrong way of doing things. I think the main basics of things that you should do realistically is start off, your continent, and to be one is to all countries set up either regional or literally north, south, east and west, and those countries that border each other in, say, the north, to put together and have like a university, homegrown university, of all the things that all the projects that you think your continent might need in the future, i.e. engineers, technicians, teachers, medical, military, and start to build your homegrown I mean, it's nice that the Chinese help out, and I imagine that's what's going on in places like Mali and Niger and stuff like that. I believe that the Chinese are moving in with their industries and their might and understanding plus money, and what I'm frightened of is that we're just getting rid of one colonial powers, i.e., the West, Europe, and America, say, and allowing another colonial to come in through the back door, say China, Russia, and Middle East as well, because I think that's going on there as well. And I just think we should now be in a place where we should put the foundations down for universities and hospitals and borders, opening them borders, and also because you're doing that, I feel like an army, an African Union army that reflects all of Africa, not just a few states that put together. I feel like a proper, legit African Union, where the army, culture, and obviously the basics, i.e., schools, at all levels, up to university level, and hospitals, at all levels, should be across the board. And I feel like they can do that realistically with the resources that are currently held abroad or outside of Africa. But I know that's not an easy thing to do. So if all the countries put together and join together with one currency, like a governing body that will govern that will still give the individual countries their sovereignty, but will work under one body. So when it comes to international affairs, the body should work in conjunction of all of the countries, but speaking through one. So one deal that may be given to one country should be a universal for all of the countries, and this will be set at international market rates, not some countries' own idea of what things are worth. And I feel like if getting the real money from there and having projects, actual proper projects that will reflect regions rather than individual countries, will stop the things that let us down, as the diaspora will probably tell you. It's corruption. It's one dodgy puppet government just doing the bidding for, i.e., a country outside of the waters or outside of the territories. And I feel like if it was to make it bigger and to have countries oversee each other, it would sort of narrow down, or make it easier for rich countries like America, China, and Europe, for instance, to come in and manipulate on a lower level, and they'd be able to get resources that are for the whole of the continent for pennies or cents. It needs to stop, really, to be fair. There's a definite imbalance in societies of countries. Why is it that some of the poorest countries in the world are based in Africa, when mineral rich Africa should be leading in a sense? It shouldn't need international help for water, food, and other things like medicine. We should really start making our course start small, i.e., it's not going to be internationally renowned, but make it able so it sort of caters for its populations within African countries. I feel like if they could work on that, on state by state, and have that resilience of knowing that you're starting something from the scratch, but the future. I mean, some of these countries like China and the US, for instance, they wasn't always rich, they wasn't always powerful, they wasn't always mighty. But every generation that we don't do this work for the African people and the diaspora internationally, um, it sets us back from making these achievements in the future. We have to start somewhere, and I feel like sometimes it might just be just chucking down some hard structures and putting the money behind it. And obviously working together and building industries that will be internationally. For instance, there's a lot of honourable land. There's a lot of there's a lot of there's a lot of everything in Africa, really, to be honest. But it's not in African hands, and I feel like enough's got to be enough now. Where we say, right, we welcome the Chinese building roads for us and metros and I don't know the amount of different things that they've done, ports and stuff, airports and everything else. It's a really good gesture, but if you show a fisherman how to fish, he doesn't need to have fish sent in. He can fish himself. So I feel like to these multinational countries and companies around the world, it's time to show us how to do these things as well and stop keeping the knowledge for yourself. And if that is the case, when we don't want to share the knowledge, then we start from scratch and we learn it bit by bit until we get to the stages that they are, because they have done the work. We need to do it, and if they don't want to help us evolve on the same levels that they are internationally, and we can't always be the continent that has the most but yet receives the least. And there's many different reasons why that is. Some of it is to do with corruption and government. Some of it's to do with external forces, powerful external forces creating issues and obstacles. And some of it is our own ignorance as well, our own ignorance between state by states and the east and the south, and there's other issues with like money and borders. And I've done a lot of travelling. I've spoke about this before, and we don't trust our own black young men travelling. We always think that they're up to no good. Some clearly are, but not all. Some people are successful out there, and there's no difference from the black society. Some people work hard, and so do the same in our own cultures. And we need to break that biasness that we hold amongst each other. We need to buy into our own. It's no good going to say the Indian man or the Chinese man to buy our hair and begrudging our own native Africans because they put a few more pennies on top and they drive a nice car. We need to see that regardless of who you're buying your hair from, they're going to buy the nice car and they're going to have that nice life. And we need to start seeing that. We need to start putting that back into our own, and instead of making our hard-earned pennies and pounds and shillings and dollars and francs, dinars as well, to put it into our own pocket. And this is how we build our industries. This is how eventually that money will start to filter down back into society, our own traditions, our own cultures, and then we'll be able to start growing. I mean, I'm from the UK, as you know. I've said it many of times, and one of the things that we notice is that in terms of culture, and especially the way that the UK is built and manages itself, is that there's a lot of areas where communities are of the same. I.e., you might go to, say, North London, for instance, and there'll be a lot of Turkish people there. As to if you go to South London and some parts, there might be a lot of Caribbean or African native people, and that resembles all parts of London and affects probably the whole country. When you look at it, is like that. They're little pockets of communities that are resemblance of each other, and yes, that system works a little bit here in the UK because we circulate foods and traditions that way. For instance, in some cultures, eating foods around certain times, it's no good it going all the way to another part of the country when there's the main force of people who will be consuming whatever that is, food wise or whatever it is, will be in a specific area. So it helps. It helps in the distribution of goods, reflecting on people's traditions and where they come from, and what kind of things that they eat and do, basically, if that makes sense. Similar, what things should be worked out for Africa, in a sense. I don't know who does this other than for us to do it ourselves and for us to take the initiative and to have our own bodies, which we trust in and which we can reduce corruption. So these are the pillars, I think, for the basis of a true united Africa, which would be borderless, would have probably one currency, pretty much like the European Union, the European Union's model, and have like an over government, if you like, that will work for the better of all of the countries when dealing with foreign countries and companies that want to come onto the African soil to maybe turn a profit. And some of these responsibilities could be the distribution of the wealth, environmental, a watch out to see if these companies are doing what they are meant to be doing, and if it's conducting itself, country and people and companies are doing as they say they're doing. Another thing is that will be part of the deal if you was to do business with Africa going forward, would be that a certain amount of resources must be left back in Africa in the form of training, in the form of helping communities build roads and I don't know, colleges, helping conserve water, and helping to introduce the techniques that are around the world in a way to help Africa become more efficient and self-serving. I know why they wouldn't want this to happen, because of the resources in terms of external forces, but we do need to think, why are we allowing external forces to do this to us as a collective? Why are we allowing this to? It's been 5,000 years. It's been 5,000 years that Africa was in its prime, with Egypt and all the great powers that was before that, which we don't know a lot about, or we do, but it doesn't get the recognition as it should do. It's time to bring that back in a way that we can once again look after ourselves and be innovators again. That will know that we truly are collectively. Hold on a second. Africa does have these things already. For instance, South Africa is a big producer of medicines, weapons, of food, and manufactures a lot. Like Kenya, like Nigeria, some other countries which I don't have to mind which they are, but there are economic powers within Africa that are very good and doing very good jobs. And I feel like those countries that are doing those excellent work should be champions, if you like, for the countries that are not doing so great, to help them to achieve the standards in which they're aspiring to themselves, because all of that will just bring the standard up generally. And I feel like bringing the standards up would stop a lot of the manipulation that Africa receives daily, yearly, by internal and external forces that wish to keep Africa in its lower energy, as so they can exploit the resources. This has been going on for thousands of years, and the progress is slow. And that tells me that the progress is slow because there really is a lot of manipulation going on. The only way we're gonna get past manipulation from external and internal is to follow a philosophy, if you like, of one Africa, one state. I mean, back in the days when Africa was called Ham, they never had borders. There was no borders. Colonization has caused the borders. Colonization has put a wall up between each other. And that divide and rule system has been in place, very successful, for many generations now. And it's not only me who sees this, we all see it, but I feel like we don't know how to make the first steps in order to bring unity and form a solid foundations, because I feel like we haven't actually made the foundations. We haven't got past the foundations part of building our Africa back up again. Yes, it's a big challenge. Africa is a very big continent, and it's not going to be done overnight. Rome wasn't built overnight, neither was all the other great powers. The longer we leave it, the longer that delay will be. We have to accept that we won't see these changes in our lifetime, but if we hold, and I know I'm going to use a big word here, if we have an Africa agenda for Africans, and we all know this agenda and we all work towards this agenda, and we all, if you like, drain the swamp, and that's a saying that I've picked up from somewhere else on YouTube. If we drain the swamp of all of the people that aren't got our best interests for our people going forward, then we must deal with them accordingly and prevent them from making use of our resources, which we would need to make use for our own ideas and aspirations. We need to start living our own dream. There was a saying once I heard, either you make the dreams that you aspire to, or you help someone else make their dreams. And I feel like Africa has been making the dreams of others and It's time for Africa to live its dream. It's time. There's still many resources. There's still many of very rich nations around the world that are prepared to fight for Africa and are prepared to do the most for us. And that is partly because they stand to make a lot from the resources that they will be extracting. That's the space that. So I feel like if we was to get more back for our resources, or to build our industries, our own homemade industries, where instead of sending crude oil straight from our lovely earth out to another country for them to do all of the processes and then to sell on as their own, needs to stop. We need to build our own industries, and we need to stop sending out raw materials, and we need to start building industries amongst each other. So maybe our fuel that we need to get imported in can actually be made at home on a larger scale, and then what's left then goes off for profit. We need to start doing that more. We need to build our own economies, and we can work together through opening the borders with each other and sending our semi-made products or produce to other nations within Africa to further process them for market. We have eBay, and we have Amazon. Amazon is more for the engineer, I'd say. You know, you make stuff, you do stuff yourself, and you need a part to finish that big thing that you've been designing, and or you've reconditioned, or whatever you've done. You get the parts from eBay. Amazon is like the selling shop, you know, in my eyes. It's more glossy. It comes with a box, warranty, and sometimes in English. Whereas eBay, you might not get necessarily that. And the customers over at Amazon are like, you know, the same that you would go to, I don't know, a big department store and buy it off of the counter. You know, the only thing is it's being delivered directly to your door after even a couple of hours maybe of ordering it. And that kind of idea where we are eBay, we need to move away from that eBay type thing and move that into within Africa itself. So certain parts of Africa already, as you know, produces and makes things. Maybe make some more of those across the whole of Africa that specialises in things now. For instance, how about we start learning how to cut diamonds, because we have a lot of diamonds. How about we start learning the processes of crude oil to diesel, or to petrol, or to making, I know we don't really want some more plastic, but to making plastic products that all obviously we don't need any more virgin plastic being made, but going through that process so we can have a smaller industry, so we're then less dependent on the countries. We can more make things within ourselves. So we are quite big innovators, and I feel like some of the things that let us down is that we have to go to other countries for expertise in doing what we need to do, and it's more expensive. Our money's not strong. It becomes that, you know, and other countries that have got more money will eventually want to buy that and then have it for their own. We need to stop that. We need to stop that. We need to try and, as I said, we need to grow. We need to grow our industries now. We need to find industries. We need to find people that are good at these industries, and we need to develop them skills and make them world class, and then commands the world class money. That's what we need to do now. money, money. Um, I think joining together and backing our money with our industry, with our resources. Um, I mean, the petrodollar, that says something. What about if we have the diamonds, the diamond currencies backed by diamonds, or by a section of diamonds, a selection of petrol, and a selection of other minerals that we have plentiful amounts of. Let's do that instead. Let's see how we get on with that. And then for services and for we will adopt those international international normaties. I mean, you've got BRICS, for instance. Some African countries are joining BRICS, and that's a good idea to join that. But what about our own BRICS? What about the African BRICS? What about if we have our African BRICS and we have a BRICS, and it's a sub-BRIC, for instance? So we don't want to step on the Chinese's feet, so they can have their BRICS system, and we can have our sub-BRIC continent system where we have our own system within Africa, and some of those countries that are inside BRICS will use our services, i.e. the sub system, to the other system. I don't see why that can't work. I really don't. But we've got to start building to achieve the expectations that we need for our future. Because right now our future is being sapped away each day by lorry, by plane, and by ship. The resources leaving the continent on a discount. I mean, just take a second to think about that. Everything's going up, but not Africa. It's getting cheaper. How does that work out? Unless we're supplementing a system that is not designed for us. The system that we are popping up again for a second time now, making other nations externally very wealthy. Meanwhile, we are struggling to provide food and services like hospitals and schools, which are the growing. Any economy fixes those things first, and the economy looks after itself after, because everything else can work around it. You have an economy that's growing, i.e., it's able to look after itself medically, and it's able to grow academically. With these academics and engineering, you can build bridges, build buildings, roads, tunnels, ports. It just makes sense that we need to invest in our young people. Stop them from coming over to Europe. Stop them from doing it. European doesn't want them there. They just want the resources. So let's invest in our young people. Let's build the universities, colleges, and schools right the way to early years. Let's build our society. Let's build our Africa. Some people around the world don't believe that everyone and everything comes from Africa. Some people like myself believe Africa is the mother of all of the world, and that mother, which we call Africa, is not being respected. It's being exploited, and enough is enough. There are more and more people that are they're saying it's woke, but I think it's just moving away from the matrix we call life. the systems in place to keep us asleep. These systems are designed to do this. They're designed to do it. And by design, Africa is always at the bottom by design. When we have the resources which other countries don't have, but yet they're able to take these resources and at a lower price and still turn profit for other countries to then make profit off of. I mean, make it make sense. It makes sense to the wealthy. Make it make sense to our African daughters and sons in the future, where we've got to explain why there was left nothing. Make it make sense to them. And that goes not only for Africans in the diaspora, that goes for the rest of the world. You can only help, charity starts at home. And that's a saying that I've always heard in England. I've always heard it, charity starts at home. And then when you're big enough, then you go and help outside of your home. Who am I talking to? The world that we live in at the moment isn't just. It is really designed to be this way. It's designed for few to hold all the keys, all the paper, all the resources, and for the rest to make do. And then out of them rest to make do, there's got to be the under at which have to make do of make do, of making do. I mean, it's getting out of hand. Why does the few need to have so much resources? Why can't it be distributed more evenly, more equally, more fair? It can't be like this no more. And another thing is respect as well. I feel that Africa doesn't get any respect around the world, not globally, not for the way that people are happy to see Africa the way it is right now. Some parts are really good, some parts are really bad. But let's face it, when we talk about the most poorest countries in the world, Africa are the leaders of it. How can we lead the most poorest nations in the world, the most poorest states in the world? How can it all be, the majority of them be African countries? Make it make sense. How can the richest of nations within Africa still not be as rich as some of the countries that need the resources in order for them to prosper? How can the monopoly of the resources that can only be found in certain parts of the world within Africa, unique to that part of the world, that continent? How is it that you're the poorest? I don't want charity no more. I don't want you to look down at me and think that I need your pity. I just need to be paid correctly for the resources that you're taking. And I just need you to give me the fair deal that you're gonna give everyone else. Why is it that when it comes to Africa's share of what it should be receiving, as it's also producing to make other countries more successful, why is it that the share that we receive back is minuscule to the opulence of other countries that are able to profit from so much of the hard work that Africans themselves put in to produce whatever that is. It's been taken at a very, very, very low discount. When everything else, everyone around the world is crying, saying things are getting more expensive. Cost of living, crisis, this and that. So what sort of crisis is Africa having at the moment if it's being felt around the world? Bearing in mind that we are receiving the least for the work that we are producing on a global scale, for the globalist nations that will make whatever they're going to make from that and make a profit from that as well, which is noticeably really different in comparison. The design has a fault, and I'm not the only one who sees it. The only way Africa's going to get itself out of this, because they see it as well, and they're happy to not say nothing because of the bank seems to put another couple of zeros on the end of what was in there last time they checked. Is that we do the work ourselves. We slowly do the work ourselves. The very hard work that we're already doing, I'm saying to push and do some more of it, but for ourselves. Build our little industries and grow them. But it takes all of us to do this. We all got to start buying from each other. We all got to start looking at our own and going, I'd rather spend the money there than elsewhere. Other cultures do this very well and are very successful at it. In comparison, we are the worst as Africans, as Caribbeans. We are the worst at doing this. Keeping that much as that earned money within our communities. It's quite important, because the other communities that are doing this very well are taking the money out of our communities and putting it into their communities and building their communities up and keeping them strong. Meanwhile, we're not able to do that ourselves. So it's not all external; it's some internal as well. I'd like to come back to this with some more figures and facts, but for the moment, I think I'm just gonna call this Africa the start. Thank you for listening. Lighthouse 1111 Spirituality.